Picture this. You're at Thanksgiving dinner. Your boomer uncle leans back in his chair, third glass of wine in hand, and says, "Back in my day, I bought my first house at 25 on a single income. You kids just spend too much on your iPhones and avocado toast." Your millennial cousin, who has $80,000 in student loans and rents a studio apartment for $2,100 a month, nearly chokes on their mashed potatoes. Meanwhile, your Gen Z sibling is in the corner, day trading cryptocurrency on Robinhood, convinced they'll retire at 30. Everyone at that table thinks they're the financially responsible generation. Everyone thinks they have it harder than everyone else. And here's the uncomfortable truth. They're all kind of right, and every single person is catastrophically wrong about themselves. My name is Mr. Dollar. I spend way too much time analyzing generational financial data, and what I found will probably make you angry, because the answer to who's better with money isn't what you think. There's a concept economists don't talk about enough: cohort effects. It's the idea that the year you were born determines your financial destiny more than your work ethic, your spending habits, or your financial literacy. Your economic outcomes aren't just about your choices. They're about whether you entered the housing market before or after prices exploded, whether you graduated into a recession, whether you benefited from pensions or got stuck with 401s. Think about it like this. Imagine 3 runners in a race. The first runner starts on flat ground with good shoes. The second runner starts uphill, carrying a 50-pound backpack filled with student loans. The third runner starts at the bottom of a mudslide with no finish line in sight, because retirement doesn't exist anymore. Now, who's the better runner? The question is absurd. The track is different for everyone. That's the generational wealth debate. Boomers look at millennials and see people who won't commit to homeownership. Millennials look at boomers and see a generation that pulled the ladder up behind them. Gen Z looks at both and thinks, why bother? I'll just invest in Dogecoin and hope for the best. So let's actually examine the numbers, because when you dig into the data, something weird happens. The stereotypes crumble. The villains aren't who you think, and the financially responsible generation might shock you. Let's start with the generation everyone loves to mock: boomers. The narrative is simple, right? They had it easy. They bought houses for $30,000, went to college for the price of a used car, and coasted into retirement with fat pensions and 3 properties. Except here's what nobody mentions. 45% of baby boomers have $0 saved for retirement. Not enough. 0. Empty. They are now the fastest growing demographic among the homeless population. Nearly 60% of boomers are delaying retirement because they literally cannot afford to stop working. Wait, but they own all the houses. Yeah, they do. Boomers hold $18 trillion in housing wealth, more than 3 times what millennials have. But you can't eat equity unless you sell your house. And if you sell, where do you live? Most boomers are asset rich and cash poor. Their wealth is locked in their homes, while their retirement accounts are barren. Here's what happened. Boomers got caught in the transition from pensions to 401s. Their parents, the silent generation, had guaranteed pensions. You worked 30 years at the factory, you got a check every month until you died. Simple. Boomers entered the workforce expecting the same. But corporations said, actually, no. Figure it out yourself. Here's a 401k. Good luck. And because this shift happened during their peak earning years, they didn't fully benefit from either system. Not the old pensions their parents enjoyed, not the decades of compound interest that would have made 401s viable. Then 2008 hit. The financial crisis wiped out a huge chunk of their savings just when they needed it most. So now you have a generation that bought cheap houses, yes, but can't afford healthcare, can't afford to retire, and are working into their 70s not because they love their jobs, but because the alternative is financial catastrophe. But they should have saved more. Maybe. But financial literacy wasn't exactly taught in schools. And corporations spent decades convincing them that 401s were a great deal, while quietly shifting all the risk onto individual workers. Now let's talk about the generation everyone loves to psychoanalyze: millennials. If you believe the stereotypes, millennials are financially illiterate narcissists who spend $20 on avocado toast every morning and then complain they can't afford a house. Let's do the math. If you bought $20 avocado toast every single day for an entire year, that's $7,300. Sounds like a lot, right? The median home price in the US is now $328,000. A 20% down payment is $65,600. So if you stopped buying daily avocado toast, which, to be clear, nobody actually does, you'd need to save for 9.5 years, without spending a single dollar on anything else. No rent, no food, nothing. The math doesn't math, and research confirms it. Studies of millennial spending diaries show they're not eating out constantly. They're cooking at home, often surviving on instant noodles, cutting clothing budgets, and skipping vacations. Millennials are actually more frugal than previous generations when you adjust for age and income. So what's the real problem? Student loans. The average millennial carries $14,510 in educational debt. Gen Xers have $7,355. Boomers have $630. And here's the kicker. A college degree cost boomers $10,300. That same degree costs millennials $24,600. Tuition increased faster than inflation, while wages stayed flat. Millennials are earning only $3,000 more in median income than boomers did at the same age. But everything costs exponentially more. The result? 60% of millennials say student debt delayed them from buying a home. Student loan borrowers with debt spend 39% less on homes than those without loans, if they can buy at all. Every $1,000 in student debt decreases home ownership likelihood by 1.8%. And home ownership is how you build generational wealth in America. When boomers were 40, the median home cost $216,000. Today, it's $328,000. Millennials entered home ownership 7 to 10 years later than previous generations. Less time to build equity means less wealth accumulation. It compounds over decades. But here's what nobody talks about. Despite all this, millennials are actually decent savers when they can be. In 2025, 54% of millennials increased their savings, and 62% made lifestyle sacrifices to do it. And get this, at age 30, the average millennial had $11,864 in retirement accounts. At the same age, the average boomer had $4,562. Millennials are socking away more for retirement despite earning less, owing more, and facing higher costs. They're not financially irresponsible. They're financially trapped. There's a difference. And then there's Gen Z, the generation that grew up during the Great Recession, watched millennials drown in student debt, and said, you know what, I'm doing this differently. Gen Z has the highest savings rate of any generation right now. In the first half of 2025, 58% of Gen Z increased their savings. To accomplish this, 69% made lifestyle sacrifices, the highest rate of any generation. They're cutting expenses aggressively, living at home longer, and treating financial stability like a survival mechanism. They're also investing earlier. The average Gen Z investor started at age 19. They use mobile apps, fractional shares, and micro-investing platforms that didn't exist for previous generations. 55% use advanced budgeting apps, higher than any other cohort. But here's the problem. Gen Z has the lowest financial literacy scores in history, 38% on standardized tests compared to 55% for boomers. They're enthusiastic about investing, but don't always understand what they're investing in. 55% own cryptocurrency, their most popular asset class. Many started investing by buying crypto first, then stocks. And that's a double-edged sword. Yes, they're building wealth early. Yes, they're digitally fluent. But they're also heavily influenced by social media, 69%. App-based suggestions, 67%. And FOMO, 47%. Their investment behavior is shaped by TikTok financial advice and Reddit threads, not traditional education. Plus, while their savings rates are impressive, their absolute savings are tiny. The average Gen Z individual has $1,804 saved. That's not nothing, but it's also not enough to weather a major emergency. 32% are saving for an emergency fund as their top goal. But only 35% can save a little each month, and 23% can't even cover their expenses. Oh, and 27% of Gen Z have defaulted on a bill or debt payment for 3 or more months in the past 6 months. So yes, they're saving aggressively. They're also financially precarious in ways that don't show up in headlines. So why does this happen? Why does every generation struggle despite supposedly learning from the last one's mistakes? It comes down to something behavioral economists call temporal mismatch. Your brain evaluates financial decisions based on the economic conditions you experienced, not the conditions others are facing. Boomers entered adulthood when housing was affordable, pensions were standard, and college was cheap. Their financial worldview was shaped by abundance. When they give advice, just save more, work harder, they're not being malicious. They genuinely don't understand that the economic game board has changed. Millennials entered adulthood during the Great Recession. Their formative financial experience was watching the economy collapse, jobs vanish, and their parents lose homes. They're risk-averse and debt-traumatized. They see home ownership as unattainable and retirement as a distant fantasy. Gen Z grew up in perpetual crisis mode. Financial crash, pandemic, inflation, climate anxiety. They don't believe in long-term stability because they've never experienced it. So they embrace high-risk investments like crypto and meme stocks, not because they're reckless, but because traditional paths feel impossible anyway. Each generation's financial behavior is a rational response to the economic trauma they lived through. Nobody's stupid. The system just broke differently for everyone. And here's the evil genius of it all. The real winners aren't any of the generations. It's the systems extracting from all of them. Banks profit $12 billion annually from overdraft fees, mostly from people living paycheck to paycheck across all ages. Student loan services make billions, regardless of whether borrowers are boomers going back to school or Gen Z taking on debt. Corporations eliminated pensions, shifted retirement risk onto workers, and kept wages stagnant for 40 years. The generational blame game is a distraction. While boomers and millennials argue about avocado toast, wealth continues concentrating at the top. The system isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed, just not for you. So what do you actually do with this information? You can't change the year you were born. You can't retroactively give boomers financial literacy or erase millennial student debt. But you can stop playing the comparison game and start playing strategically with the hand you were dealt. I call this the cohort immunity framework. The idea is simple. Identify the specific financial trap your generation fell into, then systematically disarm it. Step 1. Name your cohort trap. If you're a boomer, your trap is locked housing equity with no liquidity. If you're a millennial, your trap is debt that prevents wealth building. If you're Gen Z, your trap is low financial literacy paired with high-risk investments. Write it down. Get specific. This is your enemy. Step 2. Audit your generational vulnerability. Boomers, calculate exactly how much of your net worth is in your house. If it's more than 60%, you're illiquid and vulnerable. Millennials, pull your credit report and list every debt. Student loans, credit cards, car loans. Calculate total monthly payments as a percentage of income. Gen Z, screenshot your investment portfolio. What percentage is in volatile assets like crypto versus stable assets like index funds? This isn't about judgment, it's about visibility. Step 3. Build your anti-trap buffer. Boomers, your goal is liquidity. Can you downsize or take a reverse mortgage to unlock equity without destroying your safety net? Can you delay Social Security to maximize benefits? Can you pick up contract work for cash flow? Millennials, your goal is debt obliteration. Use the avalanche method. Highest interest rate first. Every dollar that stops going to interest becomes a dollar you can invest. Even $100 per month invested at 7% for 20 years becomes $52,000. Gen Z, your goal is financial education. Take 1 hour per week to learn actual investing fundamentals. Read The Simple Path to Wealth. Understand the difference between speculation and investing. Rebalance your portfolio to 70% stable/30% speculative maximum. Step 4. Steal the best tactics from other generations. Boomers. Adopt Gen Z's budgeting apps. Automate savings. Use technology. Millennials. Adopt boomer homeownership strategies. House hacking. Multi-generational living. Buying with family. Adopt Gen Z's investing enthusiasm. Fractional shares let you start with $10. Gen Z. Adopt millennial caution. Not everything is a moonshot. Boring index funds beat crypto 90% of the time. You're not competing with other generations. You're borrowing their strengths and avoiding their mistakes. Step 5. Rebuild generational solidarity. Here's the secret. Boomers, millennials, and Gen Z all need each other. Boomers have equity but need liquidity. Stop viewing other generations as the enemy. The enemy is a system that crushed boomers' retirement, drowned millennials in debt, and left Gen Nials need housing but have income. Gen Z has time but needs mentorship. Instead of fighting, trade. Multi-generational households are making a comeback because they're economically efficient. Boomers provide housing. Millennials provide income. Gen Z provides tech skills and labor. Nobody's a burden. Everyone contributes. Gen Z with financial anxiety before they're 25. Your anger is valid. Your frustration is real. But direct it at the structures designing the traps, not the people caught in them. Every generation thinks they have it hardest. Here's the truth. You're all right. Boomers are delaying retirement in record numbers, despite owning the most housing wealth. Millennials are saving aggressively for retirement, despite being buried in debt. Gen Z is investing earlier than any generation, while also having the lowest financial literacy scores in history. Nobody's winning. The game is rigged. But you're not helpless. You can identify your cohort's trap, disarm it, steal the best financial tools from other generations, and stop wasting energy on blame. That's how you build wealth in a broken system. If this video showed you something you hadn't seen before, if you realized your financial struggles aren't personal failures but structural traps, share this with someone from a different generation. We need to stop arguing about avocado toast and start recognizing we're all playing different rigged games. Hit that subscribe button because we're going to keep exposing the hidden mechanics of wealth extraction until everyone has a fair shot. Thanks for watching. Now go audit your cohort trap. You're about to stop blaming yourself and start fixing the system.